Hello internet friends. Today is Dunking on Sky News Day because not only is Dunking on Sky News fun, but they really deserve it. Because Sky News is a media source which is dedicated to broadcasting false and misleading information. And Exhibit A today is this segment by Corey Bernardi about the US presidential election. So Bernardi's main claim is that there's something wrong with the US election. And he says the election puts the United States on par with banana republics or tin pot dictatorships. In his segment, he produces a range of arguments to say that there's something dodgy about the election. And the amount of different arguments he presents, I think, helps detract from the fact that each of his individual points are incredibly weak. So let's just go through some of the points he raises so we can see how thin, unsupported, and just incredibly weak they are. So these are some of his individual claims to support the main claim. He says votes appeared out of nowhere to boost Biden's tally. He says the turnout was improbably high. Well, you might think it's improbably high if you've been living under a rock for the last 4 years. Trump is clearly one of the most polarizing presidents that America has experienced recently, and that has drawn a lot more people into the electoral process, so it's not really at all surprising that turnout was high. I think everyone would have been expecting that turnout would be a record high, which it was. This one is probably my favorite because it really shows Bernardi's lack of general knowledge about how elections work. He says, it's odd that Biden seemed to underperform Clinton in major metropolitan areas. Well, as anyone with any general knowledge about politics and elections would know, different candidates perform well in different areas. So Hillary Clinton won the popular vote but lost the election because she performed very well in urban areas like New York and Los Angeles. But those votes didn't help her in the electoral college. She needed more votes in the swing states. Biden's strategic objective was that he had to avoid that situation. And luckily for him, he was able to avoid that situation, and he got less votes than Clinton in some areas, but he got more votes in the swing states where he needed them to win the electoral college. So it's totally normal in elections for different candidates to do well in different areas. And stacking up lots of votes in your safe seats is always something that candidates want to avoid. And unfortunately for Hillary Clinton, she was more successful stacking up votes in her safe areas than in winning the swing areas. Whereas it was different for Biden. So anyone who had general knowledge about elections wouldn't find anything odd about this at all. Same with the voter turnout. Anyone with general knowledge about US politics wouldn't find that odd at all. Bernardi also says that Republican-affiliated observers were barred from observing ballot counting. So this has already been the subject of a legal battle, and the Republican and Democratic parties had a legal battle about how close the observers could stand to the counters. And the Republican Party had to admit that the Republican election observers were allowed to be present. So as I think we've seen, any competent researcher could have reviewed these claims and debunk them it would take them about half a day to hire a researcher to figure out what's the substance for these claims. And Sky News is a $250 million corporation. I'm recording this with my webcam and my laptop. So why do they broadcast crap information? It's totally by choice. But the fact that they choose to produce false information isn't the point, because the reality is they just do not care. They don't care at all if they're producing crap information and just sending it all over the country. The second, after Bernardi does his monologue, the second segment of the show also caught my attention. And in the second segment, they moved to more of a panel format. And Stephen Conroy, who's affiliated with the Labor side of politics, he was a former minister. He's given an opportunity to try and argue against what Bernardi has just put forward. So what this kind of does is it gives the impression of a debate or a wide exchange of views and ideas, but obviously the catch is that the content they're debating has all been put forth by Bernardi. So it's all based around his initial talking points. Now what struck me about this segment was that it reminded me so much of the way that Fox News used to operate during its early period. So famously, during the early period of Fox News, they had a show called Combs and Hannity, and Combs was presenting a liberal perspective. Hannity was presenting a conservative perspective. Hannity has now gone on to become one of the biggest Trump fanboys. But during this time, Fox News tagline, their slogan was fair and balanced. But similar situation, they start off with presenting highly specific ideas, then they get Combs, they give him some airtime to argue against it. But that was during the early days of Fox News. They've since totally dropped the fair and balanced tagline, and it's now just unabashedly wall-to-wall, very propagandistic content, basically the broadcasting arm of the Republican Party. So if you want to see how unhinged Sky News is, just look at any of their programs. So they've got hours and hours. There's 5 hours of opinion from 5 till 9 on this program, which is for next Monday, tomorrow. 5 hours of opinion, and they've got 5 hosts who all have the same perspective. They're all from the hard right, Tony Abbott faction of the Liberal Party. And all of these hosts have a reputation for being totally loose with the truth. So it could not be more politically slanted, egregiously opinionated, and untethered from reality. Right now in America, we're looking at a situation where millions of people falsely believe that the election was somehow rigged, that there was widespread fraud, and millions of people believe that. So that's going to have enormous consequences. And that's all enabled by actors in the media, by politicians, starting with Trump himself, but also by other Republicans who won't stand up to him even if they know he's full of shit. So that's a terrible situation for their country to be in. And we've also had a situation where many people believe the coronavirus was a hoax. Many people think wearing masks is somehow a horrible thing because that's been politicized. So you can really see the effect that Fox News coverage has had on the whole political climate and social conditions in that country. Well, that's the future for Australia if things keep going the way they are. Because look at this program. Look at the segment I just went over. This is just as bad as any kind of post-truth Fox News reporting. And for them to just broadcast totally false information, there's just something totally wrong about that. Recently, it was reported that Sky News has become Australia's biggest news channel on social media. So the most shares on social media. And most of that is all this opinionated stuff with totally in the gutter standards. And that's the biggest news channel on social media. And also, Sky News is free to air in some areas of Australia. So it looks like they're growing in influence. And if you think what's happening in America is crazy, with how untethered from reality their politics has become, we're headed in that direction. And that's pretty scary, I think. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Thanks.